Hi, this is Janine, and today I'm sitting here in Cape Town because I had been invited for the WILDSHOTS Conference 2019 as a speaker, very exciting, and I was speaking about who dares wins, risk-taking and rewards in wildlife photography. Thereby I don't speak about physical risks to yourself or to your camera gear, but technical risks as to your photography. So I quickly want to share that presentation with you guys. It's about 20 minutes long, and I'll be speaking about slow motion blurs, extreme exposures, different angles, and daring to shoot on high ISOs. Hey guys, before I start, please don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoy content like that, we have lots more coming out. Press the little bell button down below and you'll always get notifications if we have new videos for you. Let's get going. So why would I be taking any risks in the first place, especially if we can get a safe and a straightforward shot to start with? Well, I would say that only about 20% of images are so-called picture perfect. I'd even dare to say for interaction or action shots, it will be less than 5%. And at that stage, you really need to know your camera well enough to get the shot in camera. What do I mean by that? Even though we can often create nice memory shots, in reality we have to deal with things such as bad and busy backgrounds, shadows, half on your animal, half not on your animal, animals that are not cooperating, simply just don't want to turn around towards you even though the light is perfect, weak light conditions such as dusk or dawn or even overcast with rainy days, harsh light, bad angles and bad foregrounds. All these things need to align perfectly for you to be getting a beautiful photograph, a piece of art, rather than just another image. To give you an example, it took me about 6 years to find a leopard in such favorable conditions with a dark stormy sky, with golden light, the post just perfect, and a great depth of field leading into your shot. My skill set as a photographer only played a very marginal role in capturing this photograph. It just all added up. However, if those conditions do not turn in our favor and line up accordingly, we will have to start thinking out of the box and take risks and be different to turn the image to our advantage. This means we need to start reading the given situation and utilize different downfalls to our advantage. This will then allow us to create something really new and exciting, rather than creating the same identical look over and over again. How many line shots have you seen in your lifetime that look nearly identical? It has become really, really difficult to create something new. Have you noticed that everyone gets similar shots of, for instance, snow owls in flight, puffins, underground hides, or snow monkeys sitting in a hot tub? It has become custom to strive after a beautiful image that you have seen somewhere, rather than to create your own customized images. Therefore, I want to urge you during this talk to try and capture the soul of the animal and dig deep while making the viewer think about it. Try and tell a story and be intriguing. Create art rather than another shot down memory lane. Taking safety shots and memory shots are great practice to get to learn both your camera and the wildlife's behavior. But then try to explore and capture the mood rather than always go for the first best thing that's out there. So let's get started. First of all, I want to dare you to shoot really, really, really slow. Teaching on a daily basis gives me the opportunity to speak to lots of photographers, and a lot of photographers really enjoy a little bit of motion blur in the limbs or the wings of their animal to show the dynamics. However, wouldn't it be way more exciting and mysterious to blur the limbs so drastically that they almost become translucent? Dare to show real motion that cannot be overlooked rather than just hint around it. This will make the face jump out at the viewer, as it's the only sharp thing to possibly look at. Creating those type of dynamics in a photograph keeps the attention of the viewer way longer than just a regular exposed shot. Let's look at an example together. This beautiful male leopard should be a photographer's dream, walking in the last golden light of the day. Unfortunately, the background is way too busy and way too close to create a beautiful image. Like so often when we shoot from a game viewer, we just can't create the distance between the subject and the ground. Only few photographers own a 2.8 telephoto lens to create the necessary bokeh or blurry background to give the leopard the spotlight it deserves. And even fewer photographers can get the focus point right at that distance, because your depth of field is so minute on a 2.8 at that distance. Instead, dare to shoot slow. Daring to shoot slow might provide you with the risk of not capturing a worthwhile image, as your success rate goes down drastically, even for really well-practiced photographers. However, if you do succeed, you receive a photograph worth keeping, rather than another safety shot. The close ground is suddenly no issue anymore. Instead, the streaks really add to the image and the leopard becomes the beautiful, mysterious creature that we all love. And who says that we always need to have the face pin sharp in our photograph? This shot was taken at a full second at an f2.8. It was that dark. The lion was walking over burned ground after a recent bushfire. However, the colors and the dynamics of the photograph tell a story that I thought was worthwhile telling. Remember, Picasso said, "Learn the rules like a pro, but please break them like an artist." You see, not just unfortunate backgrounds, but also low light conditions really invite you to try slow motion blurs. And if you doubt yourself and think you'll never be able to master this technique, especially when it comes to wildlife and risking those few precious chances you might have in the bush shooting a lion, try and practice on something more steady, for instance an old-timer mobile show. And remember, most of the time the backgrounds are so bad or the light is so weak, you wouldn't get a good shot anyway. Read the situation and utilize it accordingly. Sometimes our subjects might not move parallel to us, so we don't get the chance to pan in order to create a nice motion blur. But even a twisting motion can look phenomenal on a slow motion blur. We need to shoot it a little bit faster to get the rest of the image nice and sharp. But any type of water splashing or droplets or raining can enhance the water so much so that it looks amazing on a slow motion blur. And then there's times that our subjects might not move at all. How often do we encounter sleeping predators that just don't give us a nice image at all? Admittedly, creating a slow motion blur with a sleeping wild dog is a challenge. But let's try. Face that challenge. By creating a rapid motion yourself and twisting the zoom either in and or out, doesn't matter which way you go, you create this nice tunnel effect. The idea is to pull the entire picture out of a center that's interesting, because the center is the only place that's going to remain sharp and in focus. You'll need to shoot slow enough to give your wrist enough time to twist, but not so slow that you shake up the whole picture. And by the way, this technique looks absolutely phenomenal with patterned animals, such as zebras, for instance. Next, I want to encourage you to dare to play with your light conditions. If your subject is in very, very different light than what your background is, it shouts at you, it screams at you. It's the best opportunities you could possibly get. For instance, when the subject has shade and it's significantly darker than what the background is, a lot of photographers stop shooting entirely because they call it harsh light. The subject and the background are in such stark contrast to each other that they cannot be evenly exposed and nicely exposed together. Take advantage of it and take the risk by creating a nice, beautiful high-key image. This works particularly well with naturally dark or shady animals lifting off against, for instance, bright reflective water or bright reflective sky. After all, we will struggle to tell the leopard to please turn around as the sun is right behind him. It also works well with light beige, grey sand and yellow grass in the savanna, especially when the lion has decided to lie in the shadow of the bush and the sun starts right behind it, or with a baby elephant standing in the shadow of the mum. So instead of exposing correctly for the background, which often takes up a big part of our image, we start exposing for the subject. And we'll take it even a step further. We will overexpose on the subject, so much so that all shadows are lifted and the background turns bright, ideally completely white. As you can see, your histogram will start falling off to the right-hand side. The more background you have, the more it will bunch up on the right. And you'll show that big parts of your images are burned. Great, that means we're getting it right. If the shadows were not too harsh, some high key images work in color. However, generally, the subject will end up looking so washed out that we will have to turn it into black and white. That is a typical high key image. The strong contrast shouts for black and white, and if you pull the blacks in post-production, the image will really pop at you. Please remember that high key images really live off negative space. Don't crop it too tight. The wide open space gives the line space to breathe and calms the image down. The opposite to a high key image is a low key image. This baboon mother was slowly waking up on a fallen branch in a cold winter's morning. And low key images are another beautiful, sleek way of getting rid of nature's busy backgrounds. This time the subject must be significantly brighter, ideally in the sunlight, and the background must be much darker, ideally in the shade. You might think this type of photograph takes significant post-production efforts, but no. This is how I shot it. The background was in the shadow and automatically turned pitch black, shooting on an exposure of -3.7. The only thing that remains visible is the litter part of the baboon. You can see that the post-production image only shifts the histogram slightly more off to the left. Amazingly, it takes minimal adjustment efforts if you shoot it right to start with, and therefore is allowed in competitions. This is how I would have shot it if I shot it on a normal exposure. Yes, you can see all the details, but at the same time you lose the beautiful moody atmosphere of the early morning. In turn, you might argue that this exposure might look much prettier if I would have actually shot it from the right side, from the sunny golden side, instead of shooting into the shade at the baboon. Here we go. This is shot from the beautiful golden lit side. It provides us with a nice portrait, but nothing significant. It loses the early morning mood and the mysterious look that lets the viewer wonder what might or might not be beyond those shadows. Take the risk and create art instead. Early morning and late afternoon light generally works best for low-key images, as it provides us with long shadows cast by the vegetation or the riverbanks. This allows us to create these naturally dark backgrounds, such as here where the lion was stepping into the early morning light. But timing is key. We lose the background as the lion walks 3 steps further. He will be fully illuminated by the sun, and the background will touch the sunlight as well. It is only that split moment where his head is peeping out into the sunlight while the rest is submerged into the shadows. While this technique works really well with side light, as it creates a cool Phantom of the Opera effect where one side of the face merges into the dark shadows of the background, it also works when it's fully illuminated. However, the preconditions have to be there. If the shadow in the background isn't consistent, you can't edit it afterwards. If you have to try and edit between those individual sand grains or individual pieces of fur, you'll lose detail. It's nearly impossible. Read the light and utilize it to your advantage. Last but not least, low-key images also work by shooting straight into the light, creating translucent water splashes or feathers, or fake feathers in this instance, on this warrior's head, or fur from the back. Proper backlit will be casting a strong shadow on the side that is visible to the photographer, only leaving the golden halo around the animal. This is why we call it rim lighting. However, the concept of a low-key image remains exactly the same. Whatever is touched by the sun, such as the grasses below, will remain visible, and everything in the shadow will turn black. You agree? This is when we take photography a step further from merely documenting things to making light our paintbrush, our tool to create art, soul, and mood. Next, I want to talk about daring to change your position and your angle, even though you might risk losing the shot as you will lose a little bit of time moving around. Nevertheless, don't always settle with the first best thing. Your position really makes a huge difference to your photograph. This is a shot as many of our guests can get on a photo boat with us on the Chobe River. This is the very same shot, only shot about 60 centimeters higher. As you lose the low angle by getting up from the floor to the chair, you start losing the distance to your subject and therefore that beautiful shallow depth of field. We'll take it another step and stand up straight. We start getting a little bit of reflection but lose all of the personal angle with a beautiful bouquet. Instead of shooting towards the horizon, we now start shooting down at the animal. So it's that simple to make a very ordinary portrait quite beautiful. And still, I have to urge my guests every single day to get off that chair and sit off the floor, because it costs time and effort. Please go the extra mile. It will be worthwhile. The only time that lower isn't better is when you start fighting with a horizon line going straight through your subject. The blue water makes for a clean enough background that going low is really not of advantage here. So please dare to change your position to get the better shot. Whether that means that you need to go down to the ground and lie flat on your belly, if it is allowed, or whether the subject was kind enough to elevate itself by posing on a termite mound or a fallen log, or whether it means that you simply take the risk and go a full 180 degrees around the subject in order to take it from a different angle, shoot it into the sun, the unintuitive angle. Don't settle with the first best thing. Last but not least, I find a lot of photographers desperately trying to keep their ISO low, and not just low, unfortunately too low. Dare to shoot on high ISOs, it's crucial. It is what it is. In wildlife photography, our absolute priority remains to keep the shutter speed up. For a regular exposure, I believe one should shoot a minimum of roughly double your focal length to ensure our own camera shake doesn't cause an unintentional motion blur. That means if I shoot on a 400mm lens, I would ideally want to shoot at minimum 0.08 of a second. If you have a crop sensor, please include that into your calculation too. That means in weak light such as dusk and dawn, or even in artificial light conditions. On a dark subject such as an elephant, a hippo, or gorillas, for example, for high key images when we have to ask for all that extra light, as well as when we require extra shutter speed for action shots, for instance birds in flight, we need to push our ISO. Rather have a sharp image with a bit of grain than have a blurry image with none. This image was shot on 8000 ISO in order to support 1,000th of a second. Look at the detail and the water droplets in the mane of the line. You might think that you would have rather shot it slower and turned for a lower ISO. But why would I risk such an opportunity? I mean, feeding lions off a moving boat in a river. On a 600mm lens, my chance for a sharp picture would have gone down exponentially on a lower shutter. Matter of fact, even at 1,000th of a second, I often find marginal motion blur in my own photographs. Instead, I kept my ISO high and I have a photograph packed with details. Please remember that if you shoot on high ISOs, it is always good to shift your histogram a little bit to the right-hand side. Shoot a little bit brighter, because even though more details sit in the dark, the noise also hides in the dark. So if you shoot a little bit overexposed and have to pull your exposure back a little bit, you'll have less noise than if you shoot on a darker exposure. Let's have a look at the next image. This was shot on a dazzling 20,000 ISO. Yes, I have to admit that such settings don't leave much margin for cropping. You need to be extremely close. We were only about 5 meters away from that line. And you need to work with a good sensor. But did I have a choice? Shooting on a 400mm lens, On my widest aperture, I was only on a 50th of a second. This means I could have either shot it on 20,000 ISO or have no image at all. And I'm very glad I was able to capture that beautiful glow after sunset. Light just becomes so magical. And you might notice the dominance of cats when it comes to high ISOs. Yes, these guys like to move around when the light isn't sufficient. But you also get in trouble with big dark elephants that swallow a lot of light, especially when you intend to shoot high key images that ask for that extra light on a +3.3. In order to get the water splashing of the young elephant sharp, I was keen on keeping my shutter speed quite high. But not just high key images. Take a simple portrait of an elephant and you'll see how much extra light you'll require to compensate for the dark skin. You can choose between lowering your shutter and risking a blurry image, or increasing your ISO. Similar challenges arise when you're forced to shoot indoors without a flash. Don't worry. Dare to shoot on high ISOs. As I said, it does depend on your equipment. How much can you push it? However, getting a dark or a blurry image will not help you in either case. So, please dare to be different. Go the extra step and break the norm. Don't give up just because shooting conditions just don't seem ideal. And instead, make the challenge part of your creative thinking process. And most of all, have fun. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you want to get more tips or tricks, please look me up on social media. I'm on Facebook under Janine Krayer Wildlife Photography and on Instagram under Janine Wildlife Photography. Please don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell button down below. You'll see all our new sessions coming out. If you found this interesting, we have lots more to give. Have a good day.